it, snap your fingers, then you lean back. Mild out of state, on the day they never seen that. Ain't fat, do it, snap your fingers, then you lean back.
In our studios, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Meena J. Meena has been on our shows many times, but not probably on this show. But she works as a mental health advocate, mental health worker, and she works at Phoenix Society as a manager. So she is here to talk about mental health and mental awareness, which is so important. You can never talk enough about mental health. We all living with mental health now. So welcome, my
Thank
good
you.
friend,
Thank
Meena.
you, Camilla. Yes, nice to be on Viti Vibes and in the studio with you again. Like you said, mental health. There's a lot more awareness now and people talking about it more, which is good. I think in the last years, since social media has also is a big part of our lives. It's even in the South Asian community, the talk and awareness about mental health has increased. So we're heading in the right direction, but still we need to keep working at it.
Mm-hmm. You used to produce a show called Mind Sense.
Yes.
For a year on Shaw.
Yes.
And you were doing the recording right here.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a great show and a lot of people did watch. So, I mean, we need to keep this alive. You can never say, even after pandemic, during the pandemic, before that, but it's more visible right now.
Yeah, so I guess right now we're seeing the after effects of the pandemic, right? The COVID isolation period. So now we're seeing the after effects still. Where, people, especially during when it was COVID, you were isolating in your homes mostly, and now people are back out, but there's also after effects of what the effect had on you, your emotional, your mental health, and what you did for yourself. Some people liked to isolate, others didn't, but also it gave, during that time, people had to focus on themselves, right, spend that time. They were forced to do that. So I think now we see after effects of that still. People do get out, but people also, going back into the social circles can be anxiety provoking, in the big circles again, in big social interactions again with everybody, and not, like if you were depressed during it, it just doesn't get cured because everything opened again.
Yes.
You used to have to work through all those emotions. It's normal for everybody to go through highs and lows. Like, sometimes we feel low mood, we feel depressed, happy, sad, angry. It's very normal to go through all of those. When you should seek help is if your depression or something is not going away and it lasts for months, weeks and months, and it's impacting your functioning, basically, like the way you were functioning. Your sleep, your appetite, you're not able to go to work, or you're missing work, you're missing school or whatnot, then, you should really seek help at that point, professional help.
So in your work that you do you see more so is the children coming to talk to you? Does the parents bring their kids? Mental health, when we talk about mental health, is not to one population, not the youngsters. Mm-hmm. Yes, it has a huge impact during the COVID because they have their social media on the phone, and that's what they had left with because the schools were not shut down and all that. But even that also impacted women. Yeah. Some of them lost jobs. Even women are still living with depression, anxiety, and all that. Men, grandparents, you name it. Mm-hmm. It's a hidden disability that we cannot pinpoint, and people are too reluctant to go to the doctors and talk about it.
Yeah. So, right now, it's the area that I work in is mental health and addictions, and it's youth and adults. Mainly, and that's another thing too. During the pandemic, a lot of people that were, you were kind of isolated to your house, to yourself. So what did you do? Maybe you self-medicated with alcohol or drugs, or you started using more of those things. So now after the pandemic, it might be an issue for you, and to seek help with that. And also we saw, like, for women, especially relationships that were hard or abusive. I mean, that was a struggle for them during the pandemic because they had no kind of outlet or to be away from the house. I think still, sometimes we feel that we don't want people to know, what we're going through, and the judgmental piece of society. But it's not necessary that everybody has to know. You can share with people that you're comfortable with. The professionals are there. There's your doctor. There's mental health teams. There's even like crisis lines that sometimes if you just want to call and talk about stuff, who don't ask you personal information. And I know nowadays we have a lot of groups that are also speak a lot of different languages. So if you're not fluent with English, there are a lot of resources out there for people to access mental health and just talk about it in general. How do you, it doesn't mean if you access something or you go to a workshop that you suffer from mental illness. It's how do you keep your mental wellness being? And, part of that is also self-care. What do you do for yourself? And the situations, assessing kind of where you want to be, setting goals for yourself, motivating yourself, and being part of your day-to-day functioning, part of society.
I was going to say you are an addiction counselor as well. I talk to the people and they will go to the doctor, but they don't want to be put on any kind of medication or pills or whatever, because sometimes that can also lead into addiction, taking the pills. They feel that I can only function if I am taking this medication. And once I wind down or weed out of this medication, then I will get back in the same situation and I won't be able to function. So mental health and addiction, when you're talking about, it's not always that you get addicted to any certain pills and all that. And when we look at the addictions, there are so many. There's 1,450 people died in month of July only through illicit drugs and opiate crisis and things like that.
Yeah.
And when we think about that, we always think that, okay, it happens there. It happens always there, not here. I'm safe, I'm good. But it also happens in here that we are so blindfolded that we don't want to see.
Yeah, so like you said, I mean, we are going through opiate crisis right now. And so those are, drugs, alcohol addiction, things like that, which you do need help for. And I think, especially in our South Asian community, drinking is a huge part.
Yes.
So a lot of times we see the older men come in because it's kind of made that it's normal, this kind of behavior, drinking, and then, not the aftermath of that is normalized a lot. But obviously it can be an issue. With mental health, like the medication you said, yes, there's medication, but it's not just medication alone. It's also your lifestyle. You have to do other things, also like therapy, counseling. It's not just one thing. You're focusing on your life through different angles and different treatment options. Like antidepressants, yes, you get started on a low dose. Some people have been on medication for a long, long time, and it's okay if that medication is at a dose that helps them function. And some people can, they're on a medication, they're doing well for so many years, then they can be slowly taken off medication. Some of the anxiety medication can be a bit more addictive, but same thing with that. The more addictive medications are not prescribed for a longer period of time because of those things.
So who do you see in your clinic?
So like I said, it's addictions and mental health. And most of the time when people are seeking help for substance use, there's always a mental health component. Most of the time when you see it's concurrent disorders, the addiction has stemmed from somewhere.
Yeah.
Something, whether it's childhood trauma or trauma in their life, some mental health aspect that has led to this addiction. Because the self-medicating, I mean, when we look at why do people use drugs, most of the time it's to soothe or to make themselves feel better. It's like an outlet of self-medicating. and then they become addictive.
There is always a root cause, where it
Yeah.
started. So sometimes you can deal with that, but you have to get to the root cause, how all these things started. And maybe sometimes loss in the family,
Yes.
loss of parents, and sometimes parents are living separate or something. It's youth when you talk about that, because there is always where it started. So you always have to get to the bottom of it, right?
Yeah. So that's, counseling is a piece of that. In our team we have counselors, because you need that therapy, that one-to-one, like coping strategies. If using drugs was your coping strategies, so learning coping strategies that are healthy, and where did that trauma come from, or what was the root cause of this, like dealing with that piece would help with overcoming the addiction. And if you have a diagnosed mental illness, also getting treatment for the mental health and the mental illness will help with the addiction. Because sometimes, for example, somebody diagnosed with schizophrenia who hears voices, hallucinations, to kind of numb those voices, they may be using drugs or they may be using alcohol to numb those. But then seeking help for that mental illness, where there's prescribed medication for schizophrenia and auditory hallucinations, having the right kind of treatment would assist in working on the addiction piece too.
And I think it's always important to start when you know there is something not right. You are not the same person anymore.
Yeah.
You have to go home and have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 drinks, You are getting hooked to the drink. You think you're going to get rid of all your stress, anything else and everything that's happening around you, because I'm going to numb my feeling.
Yeah.
It's always better to deal with what is causing you to be like this. What is causing you to be drinking so many glasses of alcohol, to numb it down or numb your feeling.
Yeah, it's we tend to kind of overlook our things. Sometimes we don't realize what we're going through. It's just checking in with yourself. That's why we say, like, self-care is important. Taking care of your own mental well-being. Because you can't really take care of anybody else if you haven't taken care of yourself first.
Yeah.
For a period of time you might be able to, but it's going to run you down. So always checking in with yourself and, making your own list, your own goals, and looking at where you want to be, how you want to achieve that, and what do I do for myself, whether it's like exercise, yoga, relaxation, meditation, but having that time to yourself and giving yourself that time.
Also, I was going to say, if you have a very good friend, he always comes to you, you hang out together, you go play soccer and all that, and all of a sudden you find this person is withdrawal. He's not coming, he doesn't want to talk to nobody. Always, as a good friend, to check on them.
Yes.
Yeah, tell them what's going on. Talk to them,
Yeah.
because they might be able to open up to you. So when somebody is missing from your life, it's up to us to make sure you make that initial.
Yeah, and sometimes it does get hard, because initially it might look like, oh, that person's not bothering with me, not returning my calls. But it's, when somebody is in depression and a low mood, it's not that they don't want to.
Yeah.
It's because of this mental illness, they're not able to.
Yeah.
If you have somebody whether it's in your family or friend, that may, you see a change in their mood, their pattern, or, social interactions, and you check in on them. When somebody's physically not well, we check in on them. We call and say, how's your back doing, or how's your arm, whatever. If they broke their arm, we check in. So same thing. I know sometimes it feels like if that person didn't bother, I'm not gonna bother calling her back or him back. So just being aware and mindful that maybe that person is going through something and doesn't know how to ask for help, and just being that support. And sometimes that's enough for somebody to know. They might not return your call, but they just knowing that somebody is there checking in on me, and then maybe one day they will reach out and say, I need help, or can you assist me, and can you support me?
Where do you get your referral from?
So they are done provincially
Okay.
through and
Then
health
anybody
authority.
can just say that I'm having got those people that are watching you on TV today, and they think I need some help. I think I can connect with you. I think I need to go and talk to her. So do you have to go to the doctor to make a referral, or it can be self-referral?
So, I mean, in terms of the workplace, there's a whole process because it's substance use,
Yeah.
and the referrals come through, yes, health authorities if you're connected to somebody. In terms of like if somebody wanted some mental health information, they could contact you or me directly, through you or me directly, just kind of,
Yeah.
mental health support and resources and what's available. Yeah.
And any last word of wisdom for people that are going through?
Yeah, I just think, just be mindful of people. I know we all get busy in our
Yes.
lives, and, if you do see somebody that's had a change in what they used to do, just check in on them. Even if they don't return your call, just keep checking in on them. And then also take care of yourself. Self-care is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And other healthcare professionals that have been working in very difficult conditions to serve our citizens and our city. As one of the fastest growing cities in the province, and soon to be the largest in the Lower Mainland, Surrey, and the South Fraser for that matter, has been severely shortchanged when it comes to infrastructure funding. But so very importantly today, to provincial healthcare funding. It is about equity. It is about equity in Surrey, not only in comparison with other healthcare authorities, but in comparison to our own region. We are simply not getting enough equity funding in the from the Fraser Health Authority in the fastest growing area in British Columbia. Growth in Surrey and the South Fraser has been exponential, and healthcare has simply not kept up. But to be fair, this is not and should not be a blame game on any one government. It has been systemic, and we have had decades of neglect of all of the key infrastructure in our region, and most certainly healthcare. I didn't know I was going to compete with the SkyTrain, but that's okay. And yes, there has been some additions, but not enough, not nearly enough. Surrey's population has doubled in the last 25 years, and it is on track to double again. When doctors, nurses, and other healthcare providers at Surrey Memorial sound the alarm bell, all levels of government must pay attention and must take action. It's time that all levels of government take action to ensure that the social infrastructure is in place to support our citizens and our future citizens. I have personally taken an extensive tour of SMH, and I have seen firsthand the concern and the frustration and actually the pain of our healthcare providers. They simply cannot provide the services that they can, and our citizens deserve much, much more, and we need better infrastructure. We all understand the need for housing in our region. Did you know that a classroom of children is born every working day at Surrey Memorial Hospital? And that growth will continue to be south of the Fraser, and we must ensure that services are in place to support those future citizens. The reality is that a new hospital and a new tower at SMH will not be enough to support our growth. But we need to rethink not only what the services are, but where the services are, especially those services delivered by the Provincial Health Authority. We have to ask why there is not a PHA hospital with a children's focus that is located here, where the children are, and why is someone suffering from a stroke, a heart attack, or trauma having to go over a bridge to be served. And to all of you who have come out to support our healthcare professionals and demand a more equitable healthcare system for Surrey, you are sending an important message to government. Our healthcare providers deserve our thanks and your support, and I hope that the people are in place that the people that are in places of influence and are here today are listening and take the messages from our speakers to heart, many of them with lived experience. While there are significant challenges, there is also opportunities, and you have my commitment to work with you to serve the residents of this growing city and this region. Thank you.
A lot to us as healthcare providers. We look out, you are our patients, you're our friends and our family, and we applaud you that you are here today to stand up for healthcare for us. But we're here because collectively we're fed up with the neglect this region has experienced for decades. The chronic systemic underfunding and underinvestment has put us back so far, and that neglect has real life consequences. This is a non-political rally. We as physicians are all frustrated within healthcare when it becomes political. The finger pointing gets us nowhere. We have come together as a grassroots movement led by physicians but backed by the community for the community. We have done this without any institutional support or funding. The support we did receive was from you, the people in the crowd. The media pushed the message for sure, but you are the movement, you are the message, and that is why it's important that you needed to be here today. Prior to your voice, there was zero acknowledgement that this region was neglected. Earlier this year, there was no plan, not at all, to bring a cath lab to Surrey, or that changes needed to be made. Promises made on June 7th were direct result of public pressure and you. Actually, people in our own department, senior physicians, were skeptical of our efforts of exposing the inaction of government. Because for years, they tried to rally the government to get the life-saving interventions here. Decades ago, people in my department knew there was a disparity, that there was no equity when it was compared to the north of the Fraser. But their outcries fell on deaf ears, and it's not because of the lack of effort on their part. It's because of neglect from the government. The message we are sending the government today is, wake up, pay attention, we're going nowhere, and we'll hold you accountable. For decades, annually, we receive hundreds of millions of dollars less than Vancouver. Yet our population has grown exponentially and our people are sicker. We have the highest incidence of heart attacks, strokes, and kidney failure due to high blood pressure, diabetes, and our genetics. Yet we do not have those life-saving treatments south of the Fraser. And I'm not just talking about Surrey. We throw around words like equity, funding gaps, equality, but those words have real life consequences. Today, you'll hear real life stories from patients and their families of what this inaction by government has done to them and to their loved ones, and what these words mean to them. South of the Fraser cannot be neglected any longer. We need funding to follow the population growth. We need the bed capacity to take care of our sickest. We need to be able to treat the three leading causes of death with heart attack, stroke, and trauma without delay. Delay impacts outcome. I would like to introduce to you Nav Jessel, the widow of Dr. Andy Jessel, who unfortunately had a heart attack at the age of 42 at Surrey Memorial Hospital. He left behind 3 young children because we didn't have the intervention there. She's here to share her experience. Thank you.
Covering life for Fiji in Focus and Camilla Singh's show. So let's see what's going to happen next. We have spokespersons here. and lot of activity. But we are attending, and we are just hoping that a good conversation would be strike. Let's wait for the results. किस लिए आप आए हैं रैली में?
We need a better services for the Surrey Memorial Hospital.
अच्छा.
It's very crowded there, so we need extra rooms and extra hospital in Surrey, please.
ਮੈਡੀਕਲ ਦਾ ਹਾਲ ਸਰੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਬੁਰਾ ਹੈ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੇਟ ਕਰਨੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਲਈ ਇਹ ਰੈਲੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਐਨਡੀਪੀ ਨੂੰ
एनडीपी ने कल मीटिंग किया था अस्पताल में वो कहते हैं काफी
वो सब झूठ बोलते हैं मैंने सुना उसका एंड्रू हेल्थ मिनिस्टर का मीटिंग वो सब जो बात कहते हैं झूठ है उनकी
अच्छा आप जब सरी को कंपेयर करें वैंकूवर से वैंकूवर का पॉपुलेशन और सरी का पॉपुलेशन
सेम पॉपुलेशन
ऑलमोस्ट द सेम है लेकिन वहाँ पर वैंकूवर में 4 अस्पताल है एंड देयर इज 1 चिल्ड्रंस हॉस्पिटल सो ऑल टुगेदर फॉर पीपल ऑफ वैंकूवर हैव 5 हॉस्पिटल्स सेम पॉपुलेशन इन सरी इज जस्ट 1 हॉस्पिटल
जो नया हॉस्पिटल भी बनाने वाले हैं ना वो भी वो नाम मात्र ही है उसमें कोई बहुत ही है नहीं है बहुत इसलिए इनको प्रमाण हेल्थ केयर अच्छा करना चाहिए
ये जो रैली होने जा रहा है वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू सेंड द वॉइस टू विक्टोरिया दैट इलेक्शन इज आल्सो कमिंग नेक्स्ट ईयर
एनडीपी नहीं आना चाहिए नेक्स्ट ईयर ये बात है
थैंक यू फीजी इन फोकस शाह पे आता है एशियन फॉल्स है कमिला सिंह है वीटी वाइब्स
Fijian focus.
Fiji in focus it's gonna go in Fiji in focus चैनल 4 पे और फिर हम YouTube पे भी डालते हैं
यूट्यूब पे चलते हैं
Fiji in focus then YouTube आप लिख लो
आप उधर विक्टोरिया में ये आप जाएंगे ये बात
हाँ अभी हम रिकॉर्डिंग करेंगे या YouTube पे आप जाना Fiji in focus थैंक यू
Ain't fat, don't respect your